Part 2. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 11. En Nuan didn't talk to Lu Chang'an, and Gao Duai didn't take the initiative to talk to anyone. Lu Chang'an didn't get bored, so he started working on it with a book of modern reading comprehension exercises. Ancient literature has the elegance and beauty of ancient literature, and modern literature also has its characteristics of advancing with the times and the pleasure of reading. Lu Chang'an feels that he has not dabbled in modern literature too little. Literati are not lacking in any era anyway. There are more, and the number of masterpieces among the works produced is also relatively large. While Lu Chang'an seemed to be concentrating on his studies, En Nuan carefully looked through the chat records between Lu Chang'an and his mother. En Nuan's mother didn't know Lu Chang'an's true age at all, and actually thought Lu Chang'an was a middle-aged man in his 30s or 40s. Just looking at the content and tone of the chat, there was no way to distinguish the fact that Li Lingyu, Cai Kuoking, and Mao Ning were mentioned repeatedly in the chat. Yang Yueying even related some random information about chicken blood therapy, handshaking therapy, information pot, cosmic energy, Qigong to increase production, Qigong to predict earthquakes and cure cancer in the 1980s and 1990s, with a high school student. Do you want to tell mom? En Nuan was a little hesitant. She really wanted to let her mother know that the person she was chatting with happily was actually her daughter's deskmate. And this deskmate also knew that her mother was just pretending to be a little girl. She was afraid that her mother would be so embarrassed and angry that she might come to school. You can't come to see Lu Chang'an. Let's talk about it after the college entrance examination. Anyway, Lu Chang'an doesn't chat with his mother every day, just a small talk from time to time. It was time for class, and En Nuan was a little absent-minded. The sunlight outside the window fell in together with the shadows of the trees. It was sparse. The walls and floors in the old classroom always had a dirty feeling. It was very different from the bright and clean windows in the TV series. They seemed as clean just now. The painted classroom is completely different, but En Nuan has a more real feeling at this moment. Life is probably so realistic, there is not so much fresh ambiguity. Nuan is shy, the 3 years of high school are about to end, and the girl is a little sad. I thought to myself, I haven't been in love yet. I always felt that love in college was a bit too realistic, lacking the fresher and fresher feeling of junior high school and high school. En Nuan glanced at Lu Chang'an next to her, feeling a little sad for no reason. Give it back. En Nuan slapped her phone on Lu Chang'an's book. Lu Chang'an took the mobile phone off the desk and put it into the desk. The school was strict about students using mobile phones in school, but now it has relaxed a lot. The representative of the Chinese class handed out the test paper for last week's Chinese test. En Nuan looked at her score and found that she was quite satisfied. She quickly looked at Lu Chang'an again and saw that his score was a little lower than hers. She watched him turn over the paper. There are a lot of times S in the reading comprehension questions, and there is also a comment from the teacher, don't use it randomly. En Nuan couldn't help but gloated and ridiculed, he, seeing as you like doing reading comprehension questions so much, it seems of no use. Have you ever heard of dragon slaying? Lu Chang'an asked as he closed the test paper. En Nuan blinked her long eyelashes and nodded. Zhu Rongman learned how to slay dragons from Zhi Liai. He is from a family with a single daughter. He mastered the skill in 3 years, but he didn't use any of his skills. The dragon slaying technique is not without its tricks. We can also use it to describe the importance of learning a certain ability. Lu Chang'an pointed to the reading comprehension questions. This is the dragon slaying technique. You want to say that political economy is the art of slaying dragons. I can understand it. After all, it is actually something that is not used in daily life. You are too ridiculous about this reading comprehension questions from 7th grade to high school. En Nuan feels the most boring and inexplicable. I was watching the news a while ago. Lu Chang'an paused, because they are not good at reading comprehension questions. And Nuan couldn't help but laugh out loud. What the hell are these? Thinking about Lu Chang'an chatting with his mother, this person really knows how to make small talk. The design of the reading comprehension questions really allows you to think about why the author wrote this article, what is his motivation, his living environment, his family, and whether his childhood experiences caused him to write this article. What is expressed carries these influences. Are some of his words, sentences, and renderings guiding your emotions? The current affairs background of the author writing this article, what purpose he wants to achieve through this article, who is the audience, and what kind of influence does he want to achieve through this article? Are you shouting for a certain interest group? Lu Chang'an pointed to the seemingly rigid and inexplicable reading comprehension questions and said, if everyone can master and apply what they have learned, you said that some organizations or reactionaries will use the media to is it particularly difficult to brainwash with sounds? Is this kind of dragon-slaying technique? And Nuan couldn't help but nodded. She had never thought about this problem after doing reading comprehension questions for so many years. When I chatted with your mother on WeChat, she often forwarded some articles in moments. Think about it, if you mastered various methods of reading comprehension, how could those articles that spread and try to brainwash you affect you? Western media, why do they have so much say? Because their readers are not good at reading comprehension questions, and too many people don't know how to analyze the author's position, language environment, and writing motivation. Lu Chang'an said with great regret, it's a pity that we have no time to teach them from an early age. Although the dragon-slaying technique is useful, not many people think it is useful, and they are not able to put it into practice. After reading some rumors and brainwashing articles, they will suddenly realize what they think is right, and feel the same way. You're still chatting with my mother on WeChat, and Nuan grasped the key point and stared at Lu Chang'an in disbelief. Lu Chang'an carefully moved his phone into his trouser pocket, then raised his leg to hold it down. Give me the phone, and Nuan could only stare, because his trouser pocket was in front, close to between his legs, and he had to lean over and bend over to grab it, which was too much. Do you understand the right to privacy? Lu Chang'an refused, looking at her eyes darting back and forth, eager to try, and pointed at Gao Duai next to him, don't affect Gao Duai's study. And Nuan thought for a while and decided that she could peek at her mother's phone when she got home. Since Lu Chang'an didn't want to reveal that she was in Nuan's desk mate, he naturally wouldn't remind her mother that her daughter might go home and peek at her phone. Are you going to go home and peek at your mother's cell phone? Lu Chang'an looked at the quiet En Nuan suspiciously. En Nuan remained silent. After school, classmate Bai Hui came to invite En Nuan and Lu Chang'an to sing at KTV together. It's just a small party in the class. Bai Hui is the organizer. Tomorrow happens to be a day off. Boarding students can also leave school, but most of them have to go home. There are less than 20 people going together, so just book a big box. That's it? Gao Duai, are you going? En Nuan asked Gao Duai through Lu Chang'an. I'm not going. I made an appointment with Teacher Lu to make up a lesson in the evening. Teacher Lu said that you can tell me some details. I took notes and brought them to you the day after tomorrow. Gao Duai shook his head. Teacher Lu is a relative of his family. I don't teach Gao Duai's class, but every teacher has more or less their own secrets to teach about the college entrance examination. Okay, pay attention to safety, Lu Chang'an said to Gao Duai. Gao Duai was the kind of good student who was thinking about solving problems when walking. I can't go, my mother won't let me go out at night, and Nuan said regretfully, if you don't go home before 8 o'clock, you will suffer. After saying that, En Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an. If he wasn't going, neither would Gao Duai. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for him to go? I'm fine, Lu Chang'an said to Bai Hui. Bai Hui gave Lu Chang'an a beautiful smile, and then went to find other classmates. There are rumors that you like Bai Fen, and it seems to be true, En Nuan said nonchalantly. It is rumored that you like Chen Changxiu, and it seems true, Lu Chang'an said with a smile. And Nuan felt like he was going to be pissed to death by Lu Chang'an. In fact, although we were classmates, there were always some people in the same class who had a better relationship and some people who had a worse relationship. And Nuan and Bai Hui could not be said to have a bad or stiff relationship, but there was always a difference. As for being able to play together, when she was a freshman in high school, and Nuan was well known in the attached middle school because she was a junior high school student. She was certainly the most eye-catching girl in the class, while Bai Hui was the more lively and sociable type and could hang out with many classmates. She likes to organize or participate in all kinds of activities in the class and school, or because of the vague competition and rivalry between the girls, Bai Hui and An Nuan are the two most beautiful and conspicuous girls in the class. There was not much communication from beginning to end. And Nuan remembered that Lu Chang'an was a bit taciturn when he was a freshman in high school. Once, Lu Chang'an even fell down the stairs because he was looking at Bai Hui in a trance. She felt a little emotional in her heart. "You are stupid. How could Bai Hui like you?" Of course, Lu Chang'an is no longer dull. Bai Hui is still unlikely to like Lu Chang'an. And Nuan thought regretfully for Lu Chang'an, because Bai Hui is a very materialistic and realistic girl. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 12. Let's go. The classmates who were going to sing gathered at the school gate. And Nuan raised her hand and shook it before going home without looking back. And Nuan is so tall, Bai Hui said in an envious tone, and then added, he's just a little thinner. In fact, to say An Nuan is tall means that An Nuan has long legs. With An Nuan's height and body proportions, wearing short skirts, stockings, high heels, or even the sports shorts she usually trains in is enough to kill her. There are so many eyeballs, it is impossible for ordinary girls not to envy them. Lu Chang'an also understood the hidden meaning behind Bai Hui's words. An Nuan was tall, but not tall enough for Bai Hui to rank among the top 3 in the entire attached middle school, while the top 2 were too fat. The senior high school students are still a little green after all, and it is difficult to understand Bai Hui's meaning deeply, and it is impossible to start teasing girls' body problems naturally and jokingly. Bai Hui felt a little hot and unzipped her school uniform, revealing CK's t-shirt underneath. I think after the college entrance examination, it may be difficult for many students to get together again. I probably have one gathering before the college entrance examination and one gathering after the college entrance examination. Most students can always come once out of 2, Bai Hui said her thoughts. Count people. At this time, no one has too many emotions about the separation. The expectation of being freed from the shackles and the tension of review are the main events that dominate the emotions. The greater role of the gathering is to relax. Qianning, Lu Yuan, you two go buy some food first. We will wait for you in the box in a minute. Oops, this group purchase package cannot be used at night, but this wine and fruit plate package is still a good deal. You guys, there's no need to buy fruit, and buy less beer, Bai Hui directed. Lu Chang'an, come with us, Qianning said to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an still nodded without any objection. Qianning and Lu Yuan are cousins. Qianning is taller and Lu Yuan is slightly shorter but stronger. The two brothers are in the same class and are basically Bai Hui's followers. For example, when Bai Hui is on duty, many tasks are done. Being overtaken by them, Qianning was responsible for bringing breakfast to Bai Hui, while Lu Yuan went to the cafeteria to buy food for Bai Hui at noon. You two advance the money first, and when it's all over, everyone will chip in for you, Bai Hui said, showing a sweet smile towards Qianning and Lu Yuan. The 3 boys came to the supermarket together. Bai Hui said that there was no need to buy fruits. Qianning bought 2 custard apples because Bai Hui liked to eat them. Lu Yuan was not to be outdone and bought some linwu duck. Bai Hui also liked to eat these spicy ones. Dry meat snacks. Lu Chang'an bought some snacks that An Nuan often eats. Although he is not a fan of snacks, and Nuan loves them very much and always gives some to him and Gao Dui. Men should find girlfriends who love snacking and are passionate about. He habitually selected some peanuts and melon seeds. Nuts and candied fruit snacks have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, but they are no longer the mainstream. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and picked up another bottle of Red Star Urquatu. No one drinks from Urquatu except you. Qianning looked at Lu Chang'an suspiciously. You want to get Bai Hui drunk? Bai Anis can drink alcohol, and has a good alcohol capacity, but he is not able to handle such strong alcohol. She was getting drunk, and it was you who sent her home. What are you worried about? Lu Chang'an said with a smile. Hearing what he said, both brothers smiled. After all, their close relationship with Bai Hui was recognized. When you were a freshman in high school, you stared at Bai Hui and lost your head, but now you seem to like An Nuan, Lu Yuan asked tentatively. I won't compete with you. Lu Chang'an's answer satisfied both Jianning and Lu Yuan, so when paying the bill, the bottle of Urquatu, which only Lu Chang'an drank himself, was also paid for. Lu Chang'an reciprocated and took the initiative to carry the largest bag of snacks. When he came to the KTV box, Bai Hui saw Lu Chang'an carrying the largest number of things and wiped Lu Chang'an's forehead with a tissue. Look at how sweaty you are, what are they doing, won't you help? It's okay, it's just too hot. Lu Chang'an saw the jealous light in Qianning and Lu Yuan's eyes. Another classmate Zhao Wuqiang took it over smoothly. Lu Chang'an said thank you and saw Bai Hui looking at Qianning and Lu Yuan with dissatisfied eyes. For many girls, it seems to be an innate talent to use various emotional expressions of joy, anger, and anger to manipulate the opposite sex. The first thing you want to do when singing a song is to hold back, and to smile is to frown, which is the most heartbreaking from a romantic person like Wang Xiu to the young man in front of him. Their every frown and smile seem to generate more emotions in their hearts, and they are fascinated by them. Qianning and Lu Yuan didn't know how to write poems for Bai Hui, but they were very bold when singing. They both chose love songs. Although they didn't make a touching confession before singing, their eyes while singing made it clear who they were. Bai Hui just kept smiling, looking at the singer from time to time, greeting the students who seemed to have not yet integrated into the atmosphere, and taking control of the scene easily. Lu Chang'an drank Urquatu, ate peanuts, and peeled a pack of fish tails. It was spicy enough, the fish meat was chewy, and the fish skin was chewy, so it went well with wine. He also sang a piece of Li Zongzhen's Ghosts in the Heart. The classmates were a little surprised by Lu Chang'an's singing voice. The young man's restless voice actually sang the vicissitudes of a middle-aged man and the murmuring feeling after the dust has settled. Even Bai Hui stopped talking and listened quietly before applauding. He walked to Lu Chang'an and said in an encouraging tone, do you like Li Zongzhen's songs, When Love Is a Past that Lin Yulian sang with him, do you know how? Maybe you can lead me. I like this song very much, but it always lacks feeling when I sing it. Try it. Lu Chang'an nodded. Of course, Bai Hui's voice did not express the tender feeling of a mature woman, but she was obviously very intoxicated and tried hard to express the feeling of the song. Lu Chang'an just set off her and closely supported her behind her singing. The feeling of wanting, after she finished singing, when she watched Lu Chang'an sing, her eyes couldn't help but have a gentler flavor. After singing one song, the applause was much louder than when Lu Chang'an sang solo just now. After all, except for Lu Chang'an who fell down the stairs when he saw Bai Hui, everyone else had a good relationship with Bai Hui, and Bai Hui also sang very well just now. Touching, Lu Chang'an has been setting off her. Bai Hui panted. She liked singing very much, but the feeling of singing with Lu Chang'an was particularly different. It was as if she had always been riding a horse under the scorching sun, dry, and suddenly one day there was a breeze blowing next to her. There are light clouds in the sky blocking the sun, and there are clumps of moist flowers and grass all around, filling your breath with fragrance. I didn't realize that you could sing so well. I should have called you when I came to the KTV in the past. I will call you to come with me in the future. Bai Hui's cheeks were still flushed with excitement. Singing can actually bring great benefits. The double psychological and physical pleasure is very special to many people who sing well and enjoy singing. Bai Hui often came to sing with Jian Ning and Lu Yuan before, but the gap between the two of them and Lu Chang'an was too big. Lu Chang'an smiled as a reply. Jian Ning and Lu Yuan had already started drinking dully. Lu Chang'an went to the bathroom midway, and Zhao Wuqiang followed him and said to Lu Chang'an, "The singing is quite good. Practice." Jian Ning and Lu Yuan usually make fun of you when you were a freshman in high school, because Bai Hui likes to hear it. She thinks that someone is like this because she is very attractive. But I just heard from Jian Ning and Lu Yuan that Bai Hui is now you are very enthusiastic because of what happened to you and Chen Changxiu yesterday. Everyone is saying that you like An Nuan, which makes Bai Hui feel embarrassed. Zhao Wuqiang glanced outside the bathroom and said in a low voice. Why does she feel so shameless? Lu Chang'an thinks that girls' thoughts are really cute, although for most men, they may not feel so flattered to know that a girl who is passionate about him has such thoughts. She and An Nuan have always been at odds with each other. They became friends when they ran for class president when they were in the first year of high school. Girls are not big-minded, Zhao Wuqiang said with a smile. Boys are not big-minded either. Zhao Wuqiang glanced at Lu Chang'an's expression and patted his shoulder. Anyway, don't get too involved. Bai Hui just wants to hit An Nuan. It turns out that the person who likes her likes An Nuan, and she feels embarrassed, but if you like Bai Fen again, it will give people the feeling that you will abandon An Nuan at any time as long as she wants to. You also like Bai Fen, right? Lu Chang'an said with a smile. Zhao Wuqiang was stunned for a moment and shook his head. Lu Chang'an didn't say anything more, washed his hands, and returned to the KTV box. He found that Bai Hui had organized a final confession event. A boy named Lin Xinhua was confessing his love to Bai Hui's best friend Miao Yingying. It seemed that it was a premeditated event that had been organized for a long time. Although Miao Yingying was a little surprised, she was obviously very surprised and shyly accepted Lin Xinhua's gift. Lu Chang'an quickly applauded with other students. After all, it is not the 1980s or 1990s. The atmosphere is very different, not to mention that the senior high school students are basically adults at the age of 18 or 19. Next, other people confessed to Bai Hui. In addition to Jian Ning and Lu Yuan, 2 other people also confessed to Bai Hui. With the emotions and melancholy of separation after graduation, the feelings of youth were very warm. Bai Hui was very moved and listened attentively. The boys confessed their feelings, but they refused on the grounds that the college entrance examination was about to take place and they could not respond to their feelings now. Bai Hui finally looked at Lu Chang'an, with some encouragement and shy expectation in his eyes. Lu Chang'an took a sip of Erkuatu and walked up to Bai Hui in full view of everyone. Bai Hui could smell the strong and unbridled smell of alcohol. Lu Chang'an's eyes were gentle and affectionate, which made Bai Hui's mood quicken. She was looking forward to this moment, although her reply was definitely no different from when facing other boys. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 13. Lu Chang'an turned off the accompaniment and music, patted the microphone like an old-fashioned way of testing the microphone for a leader to speak on stage, and said hey, hey twice, and the room fell silent. This made Jian Ning and Lu Yuan secretly regret. Why didn't they have the courage to confess to Bai Hui through the microphone just now? When the sound echoes, a girl's heart will beat more easily, right? Lu Chang'an looked at his classmates for 3 years in high school. From the tenderness of their first youth to the last remaining innocence, they were ready to leave the real ivory tower and enter the social adaptation period of college life. They might reunite during the first holiday of college. Maybe it will be the class reunion 10 years later, maybe it will be 20 years, 30 years, with their faces getting older, they are just passing passers-by in their own lives. After all, they will still make small waves in the long river, dotting the time. Lu Chang'an's voice was gentle and filled with emotion. When I entered school in the fall of 2014, I stepped into the campus of the affiliated high school for the first time. There were noisy crowds, quiet shades of trees, busy teachers and staff, and countless unfamiliar and young faces. Some of them are sitting here now. It's been 3 years in a flash. Lu Chang'an paused and looked at his classmates. They also became quiet, their eyes still lingering between Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui. Lu Chang'an also glanced at Bai Hui. Bai Hui opened his mouth and almost blurted out the prepared lines. Lu Chang'an's eyes really made people feel hot. Although he was not his type, girls are emotional animals after all. It was easy to become emotional. In such an environment, the attention of her classmates and the gentle sounds of stroking her earlobes would inevitably give rise to some emotions that were not in line with her rational decision. Bai Hui was still under control and had to wait until he confessed his feelings before she could say anything. This was probably her final victory after 3 years of high school and in Nuan. That day was also the first time I met Jianning, Lu Yuan, Zhao Wuqiang, Miao Yingying and Lin Xinying. By the way, Lin Xinying was sitting behind Miao Yingying that day. It seems that the evil plan started 3 years ago. The classmates laughed. Lin Xinhua touched his head. Miao Yingying was shy and glanced at Lu Chang'an with some sympathy, because she also knew that Bai Hui would not agree to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an's eyes turned to Bai Hui, and the corners of Bai Hui's mouth were slightly raised, as if he was also recalling the time when they first met. Later I walked out of the classroom, and that was the first time I saw Bai Hui. She was wearing a gray and black and white striped skirt, a white uniform shirt, with a red bow, her twin ponytails swaying, and a slightly shy look on her face. And the warm smile is very cute. Lu Chang'an paused for a while, and the other students burst into laughter. On the first day of school, Lu Chang'an saw Bai Hui fall down the stairs. He had already been teased to a certain extent, which also increased Bai Hui's popularity to a certain extent. Many people, everyone is curious, how good-looking a girl does it take to make people so lost? I'm sorry, I came a little late that day. Later I found out that you were also a classmate of our class. Bai Hui was slightly proud, but still maintained an apologetic and slightly shy expression, and moved his fingers away. The hair next to the earlobes. It has nothing to do with you. Lu Chang'an shook his head. It's him who wants to eat the swan meat. Seeing the atmosphere between Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui becoming increasingly ambiguous, Jianning couldn't help but mock. The voice was not loud, but she heard it. Bai Hui's face changed slightly. She didn't want Lu Chang'an to be ridiculed by Jianning and dare not speak. Then her victory would be completely ruined. Yeah, that day was also the first time I saw in Nuan. She was as beautiful as a swan. Lu Chang'an put down the microphone, and his voice sounded leisurely, but it seemed to be heard more clearly than when he used the microphone just now. Why was it suddenly transferred to Nuan? Nuan is not far behind Bai Hui. The sun shines through the shade of the trees and falls on her shoulders and cheeks. It seems that every hair on her soft earlobes can be clearly seen. Her white neck is as long as a swan's neck. Elegant, bright eyes seem to be black pearls hidden behind her eyelashes. She was also wearing a gray, white and black striped skirt. She stepped forward with one foot, raised the other foot backward and stepped on the wall, and suddenly turned her head. Glancing at me, I just felt like I had traveled through countless time before my eyes. I saw the river island and heard the call of the juju dove. Just like that man, he was longing for it, thinking about it, and tossing and turning. Probably because I saw a woman like in Nuan, I felt a little dizzy and fell down the stairs. Lu Chang'an paused again, showing a shy but relieved expression. Fortunately, En Nuan is not here today, otherwise I would not dare to say anything. The entire box fell silent. The students were all dumbfounded and looked at Lu Chang'an in disbelief. Who could have imagined that a 3-year-old rumor could actually be like this? It was not Bai Hui who made Lu Chang'an fall down the stairs, but En Nuan. Qian Ning and Lu Yuan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This Lu Chang'an looked ordinary, but he always gave people a threatening feeling. It was better this time. They knew Bai Hui very well. Lu Chang'an had offended Bai Hui very hard. Bai Hui is probably in the mood to kill Lu Chang'an now. Bai Hui bit her lip, her chest heaved, trying to calm down her mood, her cheeks were burning. Did Lu Chang'an mean that she had been in love for 3 years? He only liked En Nuan from beginning to end, not her Bai Hui. Is En Nuan that good looking? En Nuan is the fair lady in Guangzhou? En Nuan is the swan meat? Lu Chang'an. You knew you would be rejected, so you did it on purpose. After Bai Hui finished speaking, she turned around, slammed the door and ran out. Why don't you hurry up and give chase? Lu Chang'an said to Qian Ning and Lu Yuan, who were stunned. Only then did the two people wake up and ran out in a hurry. After school in the afternoon, En Nuan left her classmates with a cool figure and went home angrily. There is no doubt that Lu Chang'an is a bastard. If a girl like Bai Hui invites him, he will definitely go, not to mention that she is the one he is obsessed with. Thinking about it carefully, Bai Fen is very good looking. Although there is a little flesh on her cheeks, it might look like cute baby fat in the eyes of boys. Her figure is even more indescribable. En Nuan is in the locker room. I've seen it before. The white fennel is really as cute as the meaty little white rabbit. Even girls are attracted by it. As a friend, I can only remind him occasionally. Lu Chang'an is not the kind of person who can listen to others' advice and then change his mind. He treats almost everyone with the same perfunctory attitude. No one knows what he is thinking. High school is almost over, so there won't be any romance between Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui, right? But what if Lu Chang'an and Bai Hui are together tonight? Maybe Lu Chang'an will confess his feelings and Bai Hui will agree. Lu Yuan and Qian Ning are together, they should stop them. But after all, this is their own business. Thinking that all the mess was gone, En Nuan returned home and saw the unopened express delivery at the door. While opening the door, she moved the package in and shouted, "Mom, you bought flowers again. Why didn't this courier make a call?" He just dropped the package and left without saying a word. The sound came from the bathroom. En Nuan closed the door and suddenly remembered the important things to do today. She glanced in the direction of the bathroom, kicked off her shoes, and tiptoed to the sofa. She rummaged through it but couldn't find her phone. If I couldn't find it in the bedroom, on the balcony, or in the kitchen, there was only one possibility. My mother brought the phone into the bathroom when she took a shower. Does she usually bring her cell phone into the bathroom? En Nuan wasn't very sure. He had the impression that it was there, but it seemed like it wasn't. En Nuan dialed her mother's cell phone, but was immediately hung up. A confused voice came from the bathroom, "Why are you calling me?" "I made a typo," En Nuan said quickly. Then there was a soft humming sound coming from the bathroom, which seemed to be an old song from the 1980s and 1990s. It seemed that he was in a good mood. The fact that she hung up so quickly just now meant that she had the phone in her hand and was playing with it while taking a shower. En Nuan remembered that her mother didn't rely on her mobile phone so much, or was she just being paranoid and imagining? Just as he was thinking about it, En Nuan's cell phone beeped, and after checking, it turned out that his classmate Zhao Wuqiang had added him as a friend. Even if they are in the same class, everyone is in the same class group at most, and not everyone has added friends to each other. En Nuan remembers that she and Zhao Wuqiang are not close to each other. They are probably about to graduate. Adding a friend is a souvenir? In the blink of an eye, this is the 9th year. Because the book was published in Chuangshi in 2015, Kidian only updated it simultaneously. The current book is a new book published by Xiahua in Kidian after 9 years. Now Xiahua is even on Kidian's new book signing list of new authors, LV1 new author. I hope you will support me a lot, recommend it, and collect it. Thank you very much. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 14. The lights on the street are like dragons, and the moonlight in the sky is like water. On the night of the 12th day of the 10th month of the 6th year of Yuan Feng, I undressed and was about to fall asleep. When the moonlight entered my house, I happily set off. Thinking of the joy of nothingness, I went to Chengtian Temple to look for Zhang Huimin. Huimin also didn't go to bed, and he walked beside me. The courtyard. The water under the courtyard is empty and clear. The water is intertwined with algae and covered with shadows of bamboos and cypresses. What night has no moon? Where are there no bamboos and cypresses? But there are few idle people like the two of us. Lu Chang'an left the KTV and saw Bai Hui standing under the street lamp from a distance, with a long shadow. Qian Ning and Lu Yuan were helpless, saying something to comfort Bai Hui. Lu Chang'an put his hands in his pockets, laughed, looked up at the moon in the sky, and walked home. Before the invention of computers and mobile phones, there seemed to be little difference between the entertainment life of ancient and modern times. Drinking with prostitutes, playing chess and card games, camping and traveling, reading and tasting flowers, looking at spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each season has its own characteristics. The joy of being good at making things. Turn off the lights and save fuel to have a baby. Just thinking about it carefully, in the days long ago, people seemed to pay more attention to the intersection of spiritual feelings, rather than just gathering people for fun. Just like Sushi saw the beautiful moon and dressed up to find Zhang Huimin. The important thing is we had a long conversation over drinks under the moonlight. Sushi was a man who was very good at chanting the moon. He could not only write about the celestial moon in Shui Tiao Getou, but also the human moon in a night tour at Chengtian Temple, but it was generally cold, bright, and empty. Brightly lit. Lu Chang'an stepped on the moonlight and still felt that mobile phones and computers were very fun, so he picked up his mobile phone and saw a WeChat message. The moonlight is beautiful tonight. I am taking a walk with my mother. We are discussing Zhu Ziking's Moonlight over the Lotus Pond. Just in time, I remembered Sushi's night journey to Chengtian Temple. It's just that you are obviously two people, but you are discussing Zhu Ziking's solo appreciation of the night. I am only one person, but I am reading Sushi and Zhang Huimin's The Bright Moon. Haha, because there is a lotus pond downstairs. Mom said that people who can still look up to admire the moon are either lonely people or people with a strong mentality. They still know how to settle down in the glitzy world and return to nature. You are what kind of person? A lonely person. How is that possible? I feel like you are eloquent and knowledgeable. Such a person should have many friends and be liked by many girls. How can you be lonely? Since your mother understands, what kind of person is she? She said she was lonely. When Lu Chang'an returned home, he felt a little hungry. Beiju Urkuatu and fish tails were just enough to satisfy his appetite. To satisfy his stomach, he still had to eat something else. There are still some taros at home, which were given by Mrs. Lu. Mrs. Lu owed Lu Chang'an 5 yuan for that card game. Later, she took some taros she grew and gave them to Lu Chang'an, but she did not mention repaying him the 5 yuan. Yes, Lu Chang'an naturally understands that they are all old neighbors. Taro can be used to make soup, or it can be used to make starch instead of grain. In ancient times, taro was often prepared as a reserve during marches, or porridge was cooked to feed the victims during famine relief. Lu Chang'an simmered the taro, Added tender cabbage hearts, cooked it, and added some soy sauce. Tastes sweet yet filling. There were more people back today than usual at night. Lu Chang'an came to the mahjong parlor with a bowl in his hand and walked around. Only the old men and old ladies at the last table were left. Lu Chang'an looked at it and didn't help his old lady Lu, who was driven away as soon as he arrived. Lu Chang'an passed by the van, hesitated for a moment, took out the key and entered the van again, gently placed the bowl on the top of the coffin lid, and stared at the interesting coffin. There are really very few people and things that Lu Chang'an cares about, but in such a deep night, the only thing quiet outside the carriage is the unknown howling in the distance, and the dark color of the coffin in front of him, the deep and vague drifting light. The bright colors seemed to come to life like projections, and the bizarre images captured the eye's attention. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but feel a little uneasy, picked up the bowl and left the carriage. That dazed feeling disappeared in an instant. Looking back, it seemed that the coffin was just a dead object, no different from the ones lying in the museum, only the magnetic field of history remained. Tomorrow is a holiday and he went to the museum. Lu Chang'an washed the dishes and did housework. It was impossible to review during the holidays. He could only lie down and read a book, or go out for a stroll, so as not to waste the meaning of the holiday. Before falling asleep, Lu Chang'an took one last look at the moon in the west. There seemed to be water in front of his house, and the water was crisscrossed with algae. It was not the shadow of bamboo and cypress, but the shadow of the huge sycamore tree. During the season, one of the branches was bare, and the branches cast intertwined shadows on the ground. When he woke up in the morning, Lu Chang'an scraped the white crispy rice from the pressure cooker that had been fried all night with the residual fire of the stove. He fried the paper-thin crispy rice with oil and added some sugar to make it breakfast. This thing is called Baiun Pian over there in Jinling. Lu Chang'an's cooking was not exquisite, but the taste was good. He took a bag of soy milk placed at the door of the room and drank it. He saw the old people who had gotten up early for a walk gathered under the sycamore tree and talked about it. The sycamore tree actually dropped more leaves than last night. Mrs. Lu scientifically concluded that the sycamore tree was sick and needed injections. When she was at BJ's son's house for the New Year, she had seen trees like this on the streets of the capital. Old man Qian objected, because now is not the time for the Chinese New Year, it was winter, now is summer, and the sycamore trees are just changing their leaves. Everyone expressed their opinions, and finally found Lu Chang'an, because he was studying and learning the knowledge of the new era and could give a more scientific explanation. Maybe there are some essence-absorbing treasures buried under the sycamore tree, which are absorbing the essence of the creatures in the world. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said with certainty, there is a record in Li Daoran's tomb robbing notes. Well, that book is called Qi Xing Ji. Lu Chang'an's explanation was very unscientific, but it caused a new round of discussion peak. No one said that there was a new era explanation. The discussion on this feudal superstition became more heated. Lu Chang'an drank soy milk while listening and expressing his own views. Detailed explanations of the insights gained from various strange stories and novels. Before liberation, this was a cemetery. Last time I planted vegetables, I even dug out a bone. That's the drop on the pig's head. What a shame. You are young, haven't you heard about the ground dragon in Huangfengping sucking water and spitting out beads? That was in 1966, and the beads spit out by the ground dragon fell here. Yes, the location is mine. I remember clearly that it was under the sycamore tree. After chatting for a while, the old people were called back for breakfast by their wives at home. Lu Chang'an looked back at the truck, then changed into a pair of trousers, a shirt, and clean flat cloth shoes, just like the young man 30 or 40 years ago. Like students, they walked towards the museum neatly. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xia Hua. Chapter 15. Museums are the diaries of human beings, civilizations, nations, and countries. A country's museum demonstrates the accumulation and glory of history to a certain extent, and records the glory and shame of its ancestors. Of course, some museums have rich collections of rare treasures from various countries and civilizations around the world. Apart from explaining that their ancestors were pirates, robbers, slave traders, and drug dealers, they do not have much meaning. It is difficult to understand why they are so shameless. On the contrary, I am proud of it. The Shonan Museum is not well known in China, but its collection of national treasures that are actually prohibited from being exhibited abroad is second only to the National Museum and the National Palace Museum, including the Taipei branch. The most famous one is naturally related to Mrs Xianzui, but in Lu Chang'an's memory, he did not have a deep impression of the princes in the Juncha area. Ants and princes are just waves in the long river, countless. Who would have thought that time would leave a wave to bloom in front of modern people, but it would shock the world with its elegance and magnificence. The tomb of such an unknown woman in Chinese history has become one of the top 10 precious tombs in the world. Anyone with some common sense knows that there are too many such tombs in Chinese history to be counted. It makes people wonder. There is some superiority and contempt in life. After all, there are many barbarians outside China. Even a few years of prosperity cannot change the mentality of Grandma Lu caused by the poor spirit and civilization of their ancestors. When Lu Chang'an came to the museum, he discovered that the museum was closed for renovation. He had known about this for a long time, but he also remembered that it was said that it would reopen to the public in 2017, but he did not expect that the notice stated that it would be reopened to the public in November 2017. Around a month, Lu Chang'an did things more or less randomly. He didn't investigate beforehand. He just walked here and found that the museum was not open, but he didn't feel disappointed. He didn't stay for a minute more, turned around and left. Let's go buy vegetables. Lu Chang'an is going to buy some mustard greens. Little brother. A middle-aged man wearing a military green beret stopped Lu Chang'an. His hair around the ears was somewhat silvery. He was wearing casual clothes and sneakers. He held a bag with crocodile skin patterns under his arm and waved to Lu Chang'an. Come to the museum. Are you interested in antiques and cultural relics? The middle-aged man said with a smile. Lu Chang'an nodded, and the middle-aged man handed over a business card, Zhang Xingliang, editor of Xiongnan Museum magazine. The production of the business card is not exquisite, and the printing is even more ordinary. But after all, it does not say something like manager, chairman, president, etc. It is quite suitable as an editor's business card. This museum won't be reopened until at least next year. If you want to see the cultural relics inside, you have to go to the warehouse to see them. Zhang Xingliang pulled Lu Chang'an to the roadside. A security guard from the museum glanced over. Zhang Xingliang threw a bag of betel nut over, and the security guard walked away. You see, we are all familiar with each other. Our museum magazine and the museum are fraternal entities. You can enter their warehouse. If you want to take a look, I can take you there. Zhang Xingliang pointed to the alley behind him. How much? Lu Chang'an asked. 100. Lu Chang'an thought it was a bit expensive. I will come and see it for free next year. Can it be the same? Zhang Xingliang said confidently. Little brother, you don't know this, right? Generally, the exhibitions in museums are replicas, and most of the originals are in the warehouse, and now you can see them all. Wearing genuine products. Okay, Lu Chang'an nodded reluctantly. Zhang Xingliang led Lu Chang'an away, twisting and turning, around the construction area outside the museum, and came to a rolling shutter. After Zhang Xingliang looked left and right, he took out the key and opened it. It is really a large warehouse inside, filled with all kinds of handicrafts. Several national treasures from the Shonan Museum are displayed in the center. There is a slight light leakage from the ceiling of the warehouse, and a few lamps in the center are swaying. Various sculptural relics are scattered and irregularly arranged around and in the center. At first glance, they are mainly bronzes from the Shang and Zhou dynasties, spring and autumn period, and a large number of utensils from the Warring States, Qin and Han dynasties. A set of chimes was placed at the door of the warehouse, with a crooked sign hanging next to it. The officials of the Qing dynasty usurped the etiquette of the princes to make the chimes of the king of Chu and Sun Gao in the late Zhou dynasty. The royal family was weak, and many princes and even ministers and officials had overstepped the etiquette system. This is also the reason why later feudal royal families were especially wary of arrogance of etiquette. This set of chimes is not as good as the Zhenyuhao chimes collected by the Xiangbei Museum in terms of size and craftsmanship. Lu Chang'an looked away after taking one look at them. "You pay the money first." Zhang Xingliang snapped his fingers. Lu Chang'an paid the money and picked up a tiger talisman. The tiger talisman was exquisitely made, with shiny golden inscriptions and vivid expressions, but the tail was broken and became a flaw. "How to sell this?" Lu Chang'an asked. 120 at most. "This is a cultural relic." Zhang Xingliang shook his head. Lu Chang'an looked at Zhang Xingliang seriously. "Are you serious?" "Okay, 20 is 20." Zhang Xingliang waved his hand. Lu Chang'an gave him 20 and pocketed the tiger charm. Many of the heavyweight cultural relics in the museum actually have very exquisite replicas in case the originals are restored or loaned out for display. The museum also has its own store selling souvenirs. Tourist collections are also beautifully made replicas. During normal operations, the price of such a tiger talisman souvenir should be more than 200, but it is a defective product, not to mention that Zhang Xingliang seems to be just using his job to sell public property for personal gain. For him, it is a business without capital, and it doesn't matter how much he sells. Lu Chang'an also took a fancy to a ritual vessel from Zhao Jianzi of the Jin dynasty, which is called the square pot with phoenix pattern bronze Jianlian lotus cover and dragon pattern, because today he planned to buy some mustard greens to be dried in the sun to make dried coriander, and he just needed a container to hold vegetables. Zhang Xingliang asked for 200 for this fanghu, but Lu Chang'an refused. This exceeded his financial strength and consumption expectations. Zhang Xingliang also saw that Lu Chang'an had no more money to dig out, and he was not as generous as other tourists who came to the Shonan Museum and did not want to gain anything. "You can take a look at it." Zhang Xingliang was too lazy to greet Lu Chang'an and went to the side to chew betel nut. After Zhang Xingliang left, it seemed that the entire warehouse was much quieter. Although the items placed here were only replicas and did not have the unique magnetic field of history to stir up emotions, the patterns, shapes and styles of utensils that were engraved in my mind were related to the famous heroes of the era. The names of the cultural relics together still made Lu Chang'an feel emotional. The owner of the square pot in front of him, Zhao Jianzi, is Zhao Yang, the grandson of the orphan Zhao Wu in the movie The Orphan of Zhao. "The princes are rebels, why don't you send troops?" Zhao Yang, who was just starting out, angrily wondered that the emperor was in trouble, while the princes waited and watched. "Shi Yang is treacherous and cunning, and the HD family is unmatched." Zhao Yang was also young and unable to resist Shi Yang's plan to split the Zhao family. "The punishment is not as good as the scholar officials, and the courtesy is not as good as the common people. At least in our country of Jin, this has become a thing of the past." Zhao Yang's casting of the punishment tripod was the first time in the history of the Jin dynasty that the national laws were clearly stated to the world, and the challenge was the punishment is not as good as the common people. The privileged class based on Shangdafu challenged the entire class of scholar bureaucrats in the spring and autumn period. The Confucian sages headed by Confucius even criticized him verbally and writing, although this matter was not decided and implemented by him alone. From ancient times to the present, the real rulers of China, except for a very few, have always been the scholar bureaucrat class. Those who challenge this class will all be infamous after death. Various exaggerated or fabricated stories are circulated. In their mouths, Qin Shi Huang is the emperor. They are no different from bloodthirsty maniacs. Zhu Yuanzhang was ugly and brutal, and Yang Zheng was harsh, and stingy. If you look closely at history, you will know that these are the emperors who really dealt cruelly to the scholar-bureaucrat class. Now they are trying to make a comeback. Lu Chang'an thought of many things about Zhao Jianzi, and gradually showed a calm smile. 476 BC. Sir, give me another 100 years, and I will definitely be able to. Okay, Zhao Wuxi, if the Zhao family is in trouble in the future, my husband is in Jinyang, so he can be relied upon. Can. History books only record what Zhao Yang said to his son Zhao Wuxi: when the Jin kingdom is in trouble, Jinyang cannot be far away, so we must return home. There is no previous text, no reason why Jinyang can rely on it, and no record of who Zhao Yang prayed for another 100 years. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 16. The immortal caressed my head, nodded my hair, and blessed me with immortality. Zhao Jianzi was not the first person to pray for immortality, nor was he the only one who had the opportunity to pray for immortality but did not get it. It's just that 9 out of 10 people are unhappy in life, let alone seeking immortality. Time is precious and ruthless. When it passes, even if you spend your whole life and all the wealth in the world, you can't get even a minute or a second. Lu Chang'an walked out of the warehouse holding the tiger charm that was smooth and heavy to the touch. The Shonen Museum has a collection of more than 200,000 items. Of course it is impossible to see them all here, but for the general audience, there are a few replicas that are most worth seeing. During the free museum closing period, this 100 yuan the viewing fee is worth the money. As for Zhang Xingliang's personal use of official weapons, Lu Chang'an didn't care. From ancient times to the present, saints and ordinary people, each with his own character and wisdom in life, are just an inevitable part of the society of the species. The world where everyone is a saint under the rule of saints that the master longed for does not exist, or is it true that Zhuangzi said in human world, in name and in reality, saints cannot win, but what about Ruofu? Lu Chang'an is not a saint, and he has never seen a real saint. The closest people to a saint are only a few people. He also once wanted people to live for many more years. That person might be able to bring a different atmosphere to the world, but history has no ifs. Lu Chang'an himself is just a wave on the long river, which has never dissipated, but has not reversed the long river. Ability. The master said on the river, the deceased is like a man who never gives up day and night. Lu Chang'an walked out of the warehouse and squinted his eyes. It was already noon. The mustard greens at this time were probably not as fresh and tender as they were in the morning. However, the most important thing was to dry them and soak them in salt, which would have little effect. Let's go, come back when you have time. Zhang Xingliang smiled and handed over a pack of betel nuts. Lu Chang'an waved his hand and walked into the alley. He saw another man dressed similarly to Zhang Xingliang, chatting and laughing with an old couple who looked like out-of-town tourists, leading them to the warehouse. Zhang Xingliang clicked his tongue a few times. Their favorite customers were elderly tourists from out of town. They had to visit for free and sell a few antiques to them to take back. Lu Chang'an did not go back the way he came. He felt the smell of freshness and staleness mixed together. After walking a while into the alley, he saw a small vegetable market where an old farmer happened to be selling fresh mustard greens. Mustard greens can be harvested 3 seasons a year in the Xiangjiang River Basin. They are sown in late April and can be harvested in 30 to 50 days. The mustard hearts are dried and the stems are pickled with less salt. After drying, add a little cooking wine, sugar, and oil, and mix. After it's cooked, it's steamed, air-dried and bottled. It goes well with meals. Is the harvest good this year? There are 6,000 per acre, almost 7,000 kilograms, but it's hard to sell. You should have an online guidance center for agricultural products in your local area. You can find ways to sell online. Online, haha, the old man doesn't know how to surf the internet, and he can't even understand WeChat. Let's learn, Dad, how do you sell such a tall bamboo shoot? 3 yuan a pound. It's cheap, you can sell it for at least 5 yuan. Lu Chang'an chatted with the vegetable seller for a while and bought mustard greens and bamboo shoots. When he turned around, he saw a pair of high heels. Lu Chang'an stood up and looked at the small and beautiful face in front of him wearing rimless glasses, but with a very cold expression, staring at Lu Chang'an with a scrutinizing gaze. Would you like to buy some mustard greens? Lu Chang'an helped his father-in-law to sell the mustard greens. The mustard greens grown by his father-in-law were tender and plump and really good. Zhongqing was stunned for a moment. She was surprised to meet Lu Chang'an here, and even more surprised was Lu Chang'an's opening remarks. Seeing no reaction from the other party, Lu Chang'an walked away carrying his things. Lu Chang'an. The footsteps of high heels behind him swayed like a woman's charm. Lu Chang'an turned around and received a business card, but it was much more delicate than Zhang Xingliang's. There was no title, just Zhongqing printed on it. Name and phone number and company email. Hello, do you still remember Zhu Huntang? Zhongqing asked knowingly. She felt that no one would not remember Zhu Huntang. Before Qin Yan'an came to Junsha, Zhongqing had never seen a woman who could compare with her. I don't remember, and I don't know him. This answer was a bit unexpected. Zhongqing frowned slightly and looked at the young man in front of him again. It was different from the first feeling that he was a homeless man or doing hard work that day. He was clean, refreshing and radiating from the inside out. There was a feeling like an emerald green forest, which made people wonder if they would want to take a deep breath when they got close to him. Zhongqing hated other people's body odor and breath, but he saw that his skin was delicate and smooth, and he had the same attractive aura as Zhu Huntang. I want to know why she is looking for you. Zhongqing turned a deaf ear to Lu Chang'an's denial. She would not dwell on his denial, nor would she ask him to admit it. That was meaningless. Zhongqing was very particular about things. Its efficiency. If you have already determined something, you don't need to waste time arguing about it. Have no idea. There was no hint of pretentiousness or rejection in her calm tone. Zhongqing was not only Zhu Huntang's assistant, she had more responsibilities to understand the people and things around Zhu Huntang. From the day he found Lu Chang'an's phone number, Zhongqing began to investigate Lu Chang'an. Anyone who shopped on the internet or left personal information would no longer be protected from the threat of online privacy leaks. Lu Chang'an's personal information was very simple. The question is, what did such an ordinary young man do, and what aroused Zhu Huntang's strong interest? There is no doubt that Zhu Huntang checked the surveillance cameras afterwards and asked Zhongqing to look for Lu Chang'an. He climbed to the roof of the building several times in the middle of the night and looked around, waiting for dawn in the dew, wandering around the construction site with his dog, and even looking for the little foreman Fan Jian. Chatting, these abnormal behaviors are all related to Lu Chang'an. Fortunately, Qin Yan'an is here, and Zhu Huntang is not so bored spending time with Qin Yan'an every day. However, Zhongqing understands Zhu Huntang's character very well, and she will still go to Lu Chang'an. How does she know you? Zhongqing watched Lu Chang'an turn to leave and quickly followed him. Zhongqing's footsteps sounded softly, as if he were playing a musical instrument, but Lu Chang'an did not speed up his steps to get rid of her. I don't know. Lu Chang'an looked at Zhongqing doubtfully. I think all the questions you asked should be asked to Zhu Huntang, not me. Zhongqing was speechless for a moment and said calmly, I'm just her assistant. There are some things I ask her, but she may not tell me. In other words, are you just a dog meddling in other people's business? Lu Chang'an suddenly realized. You. Zhongqing adjusted his glasses before he felt the anger brewing. Lu Chang'an was wearing clothes that were shabby from the last century. With his gentle and calm expression, his words were particularly easy to arouse. Anger. An electric car suddenly rushed over. Zhongqing was staring at Lu Chang'an angrily. Unconsciously, the electric car made a harsh braking sound and the tires left smelly scratches on the ground. Lu Chang'an stretched out his arms to hug Zhongqing. Qing, hug me tightly and avoid the electric car. I tripped over my head. The man riding the electric scooter smelled of alcohol and was cursing. When he saw a traffic policeman riding a motorcycle in front of him, he turned around and hurried away from the crowd. Zhongqing's heart was beating violently. If he had been hit just now, he would have had to go to the hospital. Fortunately, Lu Chang'an had quick hands and eyes, but his trance had something to do with him. He wanted to say thank you, but blurted out, "What did he just say?" "Are you not a local?" Lu Chang'an translated, "It probably means that he has a very good relationship with your mother-in-law. He admires your mother-in-law very much. The so-called gentle lady, a gentleman is fond of hunting. A graceful lady is what he covets, but he cannot get it, and he always thinks about it." Convinced. You are enjoying yourself, tossing and turning, so the electric car was also tossing and turning just now and almost tipped over. Do you think I'm a fool? Zhongqing pointed angrily at Lu Chang'an. She had lived in Junxia for a long time, so of course she understood. She was just asking casual questions to hide her embarrassment. Lu Chang'an let go of Zhongqing's waist. Chen Changziu, who was standing not far away, quickly sent the scene he had just taken to An Nuan. Of course, he only took a few photos of Lu Chang'an hugging Zhongqing, but Lu Chang'an hugged Zhongqing for a long time, and the woman did not immediately. If you push him away, then it won't be unfair to accuse them of hooking up. When Lu Chang'an saw Chen Changziu, he didn't care. He stopped paying attention to Zhongqing and went home. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 17. Lu Chang'an went home and packed up the mustard greens and had a lot of bamboo shoots for lunch. Bamboo shoots were cultivated as cereals before the Tang dynasty. They are one of the 6 cereals called wild rice. They are a unique aquatic vegetable in China. Cut into pieces with a knife, add salt to the broth, and simmer with cooking wine for a while. It will be refreshing and moist. Stir-fried meat and chicken with high bamboo shoots are delicious. Lu Chang'an eats less meat dishes because he always has to live a frugal life. Although the daily life of big fish, meat, chickens, ducks, cattle, and sheep means the improvement of economic level and the improvement of the quality of life. But Lu Chang'an always believes that the traditional lifestyle of cooking light-side dishes on weekdays and cooking meat and fish on holidays can make the appetite more satisfying. The sycamore tree in the yard has lost some more leaves. It seems that there are too many fallen leaves. There are also 2 or 3 fewer old people taking a nap under the sycamore tree in the afternoon. Lu Chang'an received a call from Fan Jian very unexpectedly, saying that there was work to be done on the construction site, and it was still 200 a day, but with Lu Chang'an's efficiency, it should be completed in half a day. This job probably had something to do with Zhongqing, but Zhongqing didn't want Lu Chang'an to have contact with Zhu Huntang, so Lu Chang'an went without worries. Fan Jian was wearing a fairly neat and clean suit today. The wrinkles on the back were a little obvious. It seemed that he had just taken it out from under the box after not wearing it for a long time. Xiao Lu, today's job is to transport this pile of bricks and stones to the other side. Okay, I will work hard. Lu Chang'an was very happy that Fan Jian was able to work for him, and he was full of energy. Although he only received Zongqing's instruction, Fan Jian still paid attention to Lu Chang'an's reaction. Everyone has a need for moral satisfaction. Fan Jian felt that he had supported a young man and made him feel the kindness from strangers when he was struggling to survive. Warmth. The roar of machinery and the orderly busyness on the construction site carry the smell of soil dug up from the ground. It is the accumulation of hundreds of thousands of years. Human beings explore the universe and the stars, and the movement is measured in light years. However, for the things that are right under our feet, however, very little is known about the Earth's crust. In a sense, the study of the Earth's crust is more practical than the study of the stars, but it is also more difficult. The slightly deeper places under our feet often have no traces of exploration for countless years. Fan Jian seemed to be very idle. He came over to see Lu Chang'an from time to time. After finishing his work, Fan Jian handed Lu Chang'an 200 yuan. Lu Chang'an did not leave immediately this time. It happened that several people under Fan Jian were taking a break. They were in Fan Jian's office. Lu Chang'an stayed to play landlords for a while. At the most, Lu Chang'an won more than 1,000, but in the end he lost them all. He played all afternoon without winning or losing. Fan Jian reported Lu Chang'an's performance throughout the afternoon to Zhongqing. In front of Fan Jian, Zhongqing didn't say anything, but he already confirmed that Lu Chang'an was full of misdeeds. Lustful, he could easily grab her in the morning, but he had to hold her waist, and hold her tightly in his arms. This was a common tactic used by perverts, and it took a long time before he let go of Zhongqing. Good gambling, playing cards and mahjong is fine, but I only made a total of 200 yuan when I went to play landlord and almost lost it all. He knows no restraint and is insatiable. If he wins a little, he will leave, and he will stop when he is good. If he can win more than 1,000, it is not a small amount for him. But after he won, he lost everything. According to Fan Jian, Lu Chang'an sighed sadly, as if he was red-eyed after losing. He had won, so what happened to losing? How could such a person be allowed to come into contact with Zhu Huntang? Zhongqing is not only responsible for Zhu Huntang, but also carries out the orders of the third wife of the Zhu family. Why is Zhu Huntang interested in Lu Chang'an? This makes Zhongqing puzzled. Although it seems to have nothing to do with men and women, a girl becomes curious about a boy. This is a dangerous signal. Zhongqing must stifle this danger. Unfortunately, Mr. Zhu Tang just refused to tell the reason and only asked Zhongqing to do his best to arrange a meeting between her and Lu Chang'an. Zhongqing sent Fan Jian away, who wanted to please, and asked if he would call Lu Chang'an to work again tomorrow. Then he received the news that Zhu Huntang and Qin Yan'an had returned to Bailong Center. Today they went to Jingxiang County's secret seal, burn incense and worship Buddha in the temple. Grand Fien and Ms. Susan are ready. After an hour of spa, we have a meeting with manager Sima. Dinner is scheduled at Langzi Hall. A black garlic steak has been added to the menu today. Mr. Zhang Jiai is in charge of the wine pairing. In response to your request, he was dispatched from the Taipei restaurant, and he will be officially responsible for your food and drink matching today. Zhongqing followed Zhu Huntang's footsteps, and it could be seen that the girl's brisk steps showed that she was in a good mood today. Zhang Jiai is your second brother's friend, right? Aren't you afraid of him poisoning you? Qin Yan'an has some impression of Zhang Jiai. He is a man with a refined life, a mustache, loves food and wine, and is a professional food connoisseur. He has written articles for some food magazines, and his most recent formal job was as a restaurant manager at a Michelin-starred restaurant owned by Zhu Huntang. Zhang Jiai cuckolded Zhu Lixing, haha, he begged to come to me for protection. How could he help Zhu Lixing deal with me? Zhu Huntang laughed. Remember that all-faced guy who called himself Xiao Yangming? Model. Qin Yan'an frowned, obviously unable to remember, because there were too many such girls. Their makeup, appearance, temperament, and even the tone of voice and names were all the same. If you can remember them after meeting them once, he has a superhuman memory or a hungry ghost in sex. It's just a buyer's market, and the needs of buyers determine the quality of sellers. Girls like this emerge in endlessly, which shows that there is a market for them. On the one hand, we often see such girls making vulgar remarks, but on the other hand, these girls there are more and more children. Is this a phenomenon determined by girls' unilateral aesthetic issues? I won't eat in the evening. After doing the spa, I will go back to my room to rest for a while. I will pick up my dad in the evening. He will come by high-speed rail. Qin Yanan stretched out. As a local official, Qin Huai's schedule was tight, just because Qin Peng's birthday was probably the last birthday of the old revolutionary. Both the capital and the local government attached great importance to it, and dispatched important officials from all walks of life to relatives and friends. Qin Peng could only receive a few people, and most of them were Qin Huai who came to socialize. Even though there were only a few people who were qualified to talk to Qin Huai directly, it also delayed him a lot of time. There was a lotus pond in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass window in the spa. Qin Yanan was not used to completely undressing and being frank. Facing the transparent window with a wide view, Zhongqing opened the water curtain. Two senior spa technicians chose the music, and Zhongqing get ready to leave. Zhu Huntang called out to her. If I didn't think I might have to receive you, I would only prepare a bed here. Zhu Huntang looked in front of Qin Yanan with bright eyes. I don't appreciate your love. You should keep your words for your mother. Qin Yanan involuntarily raised her hand to cover her chest. Don't press her breasts, Zhu Huntang ordered. Looking at the ambiguous smiles on the faces of the two technicians, Qin Yanan's cheeks seemed to be facing the blooming peach blossoms in the morning in the light mist. She glared at Zhu Huntang, but was too lazy to explain. Zhu Huntang was probably drinking milk. Growing up, I lacked maternal love and care from Mrs. Takezan. Qin Yanan ignored Zhu Huntang and lay down comfortably, feeling the rhythm of several fingers on the skin that could bring amazing rewards. Have you found the person? Zhu Huntang asked casually, seemingly without any hope. No. Zhu Huntang was not surprised and said calmly, then I will find it myself. Zhongqing was very helpless and hesitated for a while before saying, actually, I met him this afternoon. Zhu Huntang immediately grabbed the fingers that were moving between her waist and hips on her back, because she was more ticklish there, which easily distracted her and made it difficult to concentrate. Zhu Huntang stared at Zhongqing. Tell me every word, where was it, what was the scene, and what did you say? Qin Yanan also turned around curiously. Who was Zhu Huntang looking for? I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 18. Zhongqing believes that as long as he tells everything about Lu Chang'an's actions, Zhu Huntang will not be so interested in him. I was passing by Wanhua Street at that time. It was a famous red light district in Junxia in the early years. Most of the prostitutes there were middle-aged and elderly women. There are still some now. He wandered there and bought some mustard greens and wild rice. Zhongqing added. He recalled, perhaps they are living together with old prostitutes. This situation is not uncommon. Migrant workers in cities are often exhausted and lonely, and old prostitutes also have emotional and psychological dependence needs. Zhongqing. I just want you to tell the truth about the situation at that time. I don't need your analysis, Zhu Huntang said angrily. She knew that Zhongqing was very perfunctory in finding someone. Compared with her mother, she was not very fond of Zhongqing. The impact is still a little worse. Qin Yanan couldn't help but laugh at the side. Who is Zhu Huntang looking for? Could it be that some illegitimate son of the Zhu family living in the mainland is preparing to stage a drama of going from being a common man to a wealthy family? Hearing Qin Yanan's laughter, Zhu Huntang's cheeks warmed slightly, and he felt very embarrassed. He glared at Zhongqing. Go on. I chatted with him for a few words. Zhongqing recounted the conversation between himself and Lu Chang'an. At this time, an electric car hit him. Did the electric car hit him, knock him away, and then he got up unharmed? Zhu Huntang's eyes lit up. Zhu Huntang, are you having a brain problem? Qin Yanan couldn't help but ask. Don't interrupt, Zhu Huntang looked at Zhong Qing expectantly. The electric car crashed into me. He pulled me, and then, without any surprise, he hugged my waist and squeezed my chest like a pervert, taking advantage of the opportunity. Zhong Qing said expressionlessly. I pushed him away, and he felt guilty. The ground ran away. Zhu Huntang nodded and remained silent. Who is she looking for? Qin Yinan asked Zhong Qing in a low voice. The third lady said that this is a secret that concerns all mankind and cannot be leaked. Qin Yinan felt a little bit out of breath, turning around and lying down, her smile blooming like a delicate flower, making people dizzy. Zhu Huntang turned around and looked at Zhong Qing and his figure. Zhong Qing likes to wear stockings, but Zhu Huntang doesn't like his assistant wearing dark stockings when he is around him, so Zhong Qing has taken off the black stockings he wore today. Zhong Qing remembered the way Zhu Huntang looked at her Rottweiler that day, and then she asked Zhong Qing to buy a pig and throw it from the roof of Bailong Center. Since he treats you like this, it means he is interested in you. Go and seduce him as expected by Zhong Qing. Zhu Huntang turned his attention to her, which was also unacceptable. Zhong Qing just looked at Zhu Huntang blankly. A beauty like you will definitely be able to catch a beautiful woman like you. How many young men are there who are not lustful? I am not asking you to throw yourself into my arms. The key is to use the charm of women. Look at how good looking you are. With such a good figure, wouldn't it be a waste if you don't have the chance to display your charm? Now is a good opportunity. As long as you grasp the distance well, you can complete the task without really suffering. Why not? This is also a good opportunity. This kind of exercise, as a modern woman. You are really good at deceiving him, Zhong Qing. Don't listen to her. What she is going to do is not a good thing. Qin Yinan interrupted Zhu Huntang's attempt to brainwash him. I'll catch you later, Zhu Huntang warned Qin Yinan seriously not to ruin his own affairs. Qin Yinan covered her up quickly. She really couldn't stand Zhu Huntang. She always looked for opportunities to sneak up on her. Fortunately, Qin Yinan took good precautions and didn't let her succeed. 5 million. Zhu Huntang was nakedly seductive. Zhong Qing came back to her senses. She was just distracted because Zhu Huntang's decision was so unexpected. It seemed that things were not what she imagined. Zhu Huntang did care about Lu Chang'an, but it had nothing to do with the affairs between men and women, even if Zhu Huntang had a slight liking for Lu Chang'an, so it was impossible for him to let Zhong Qing do such a thing. Have you gone astray? But what on earth is Zhu Huntang going to do? 10 million. Zhu Huntang continued to increase his chips. Xiao Zhong Qing, enough is enough, more is fine, but I will get a little angry. Okay, I'll let you do it. Are you willing? Qin Yinan raised his hand and patted Zhu Huntang's butt. It's not about money. Zhong Qing has long been accustomed to Zhu Huntang's style of acting, and he is not fragile and sensitive to feel that his reserve and self-esteem are hurt. He still thanks Qin Yinan for his understanding and smiles calmly. I can arrange this matter. Actually, you have checked all his information, right? Zhu Huntang closed his eyes. I just can't understand why you want to see him, and I can't understand why he doesn't see you. Zhong Qing did not deny it. There are not many interesting things in this world, there are even fewer interesting souls, and there are even fewer interesting bodies. When these three come together, you will no longer ask why. Zhu Huntang's long eyelashes trembled. After some time, she felt more and more that she was definitely not dreaming that night. Since Lu Chang'an was real, then what she saw must have really happened. Zhong Qing withdrew. She was responsible for Mrs. Zuzan, but she was still Zhu Huntang's assistant after all. There was no need to explain to her in detail what Zhu Huntang wanted to do, as long as Zhong Qing was sure that Zhu Huntang held Lu Chang'an's heart. As long as it's not the reason why a girl's feelings sprout. After all, he was just overthinking it. How could Zhu Huntang, with his identity, background, and vision, really fall in love with a young man hanging around in the alleys of the city? Lu Chang'an's voice appeared in front of Zonking's eyes, and it was still so clear. Although he had a preconceived bad impression of him, the strange thing is that when his appearance appeared in front of his eyes, it was inexplicably reminiscent of the wind blowing through the forest, with a rustling sound and a sound. With green leaves and strong vitality. After Zhongqing left, only Zhu Huntang and Qin Yinan were left, and the two technicians, Griffin and Susan, left temporarily. Mysterious, what are you doing? Qin Yinan asked again. Zhu Huntang still refused to tell, and she didn't plan to ask again. I met a very interesting person, but when I wanted to meet him, he refused. Zhu Huntang knew that even if he told the truth, no one would believe him, and it would only add to Qin Yinan's jokes. Miss Susan said that there are interesting people, and I would like to meet them if I have the chance. Qin Yinan stretched out and turned his head to look at Zhu Huntang. I also want to get to know the man who is about to possess the Qin family's treasure. Zhu Huntang clapped his hands in the air and said with great envy, this must be a fairy-like enjoyment. I tell you, sooner or later you will have to. How about letting others take advantage of you first? Go and play with yourself. Qin Yinan suddenly sat up in anger. But Zhu Huntang laughed heartlessly, because Qin Yinan's reaction showed that Qin Yinan had become more and more sure that her coming to Junxia to meet him was a blind date arranged by her family. Zhu Huntang hid in Junxia to avoid marriage. Although she was still young, her interpersonal circle had been filled with various deliberate and utilitarian arrangements since she was a child. As the third young lady of the Zhu family, Zhu Huntang is not disgusted with such an arrangement, she can even accept it, but when it is not so urgent, why not struggle to enjoy a life where you can be comfortable and do whatever you want? Qin Yinan is different. The political giants are more eager for marriage and transactions. Although Qin Peng has said that he agrees with Qin Yinan to find a boyfriend, the meaning is still somewhat different. Finding a boyfriend and finding a husband are the same thing. What's more, Qin Yinan also realizes that she is not qualified to be willful. Instead of meeting the Phoenix man with ulterior motives, she would rather meet someone who is well matched and knows everything about her. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikin Ru Xiahua. Chapter 19. Qin Yinan hoped that she was not here to go on a blind date with Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang hopes to see Lu Chang'an again on the roof of Beilong Center, talk about longevity, and ask him to perform another jumping off the building. Zhongqing did not go to Lu Chang'an immediately. Zhu Huntang was not going to frame Lu Chang'an, but she had no way to influence Lu Chang'an, so she wanted to find a way and someone who could influence Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an went home and swept the sycamore leaves on the ground into a pile before dark. The bare branches of the sycamore tree became more and more conspicuous, as if a young man with thick hair suddenly lost a piece of hair and exposed his scalp. People feel that baldness is more unhealthy than that of middle-aged and elderly people and carries the aura of a sign of disease. After Lu Chang'an cleaned up the fallen leaves, he put away the dried coriander, mustard products, that had been exposed to the sun, and bit into a piece. It was moderately salty and slightly sweet, and it would be ready after being exposed to the sun for a few days. Looking at the quiet carriage, Lu Chang'an had a feeling that he shouldn't let it stay here. He thought of the black-painted lacquer coffin he saw in the warehouse today. The magical monster is painted with black paint as the base and red, white, black, yellow, green, and other colors to draw flowing and unrestrained clouds. More than 100 animals and mythical beasts and spirits are interspersed among the clouds, forming part of 57 paintings. The content is a typical Han Dynasty air pattern lacquer painting, full of auspicious and upright atmosphere, but it is completely different from the atmosphere exuded by the bronze coffin in the carriage. Since ancient times, the dragon has been used to refer to the emperor. The dragon is the supreme, and the phoenix is the queen, but its status is second to the dragon. The pattern of the phoenix biting the dragon's body exudes an aura of unethical murder, which is as cold as the autumn and winter chill, biting to the bone. Did this thing make Qin Peng feel something? That's why it was sent to him. When a person is close to death, it is actually like being at the junction of night and dawn. The body already contains the energy of death, which can often attract or feel some auras that transcend the cycle of life and death. These auras make Qin Peng uneasy. A man of 110 years old is considered auspicious, so it is not surprising that he can feel some special magnetic fields other than those of ghosts and gods. Lu Chang'an thought about it for a while and then went to cook. When he went to play mahjong, there were still a few familiar faces missing today. The game ended at 10 o'clock. Lu Chang'an lost 10 yuan. He wiped his nose and persisted until the game ended. He went back happily. He was the biggest winner tonight. Lu Chang'an had a rare dream at night, but when he woke up he couldn't remember it at all. He just felt a little cold and added a blanket. The next morning, Lu Chang'an took the soy milk outside the door and drank it while looking at the sycamore tree that had dropped more leaves. In just 2 days, half of the leaves had fallen completely. The one-day holiday was originally intended to be spent doing nothing, but it turned out to be extremely fulfilling. Labor makes people happy, labor creates wealth, labor brings health, and the working people are the greatest. Lu Chang'an felt very happy after moving bricks all afternoon. When I arrived at school, I met the class teacher Huang Shan at the gate. He was watching some video on his mobile phone, but it was probably not the female anchor he was following this morning. When passing by the basketball court, Lu Chang'an saw Chen Changxiu. Chen Changxiu also stared at Lu Chang'an. His fierce face was even more ugly because of the sneer at the corner of his mouth. Lu Chang'an responded with a toothy smile. "Wait," Chen Changxiu pointed his finger at Lu Chang'an. He felt that Lu Chang'an was too arrogant, and it felt very satisfying to make Lu Chang'an stop laughing. Bai Hui was eating the breakfast brought by Jianning outside the classroom door. He bought it at KFC. It was carefully paired with coffee, egg sandwiches, and a bowl of porridge. A boy of this age is already very good at doing this. He is at home. Making a love breakfast is a little too difficult for them. Bai Hui didn't show a gentle smile as usual when she saw Lu Chang'an. There was usually a hint of pity in the smile because Lu Chang'an's feelings were not responded to. Bai Hui turned a blind eye to Lu Chang'an today, looking past him quickly and becoming cold and indifferent. There were not many people in the classroom yet, so Lu Chang'an said hello, "Good morning." Bai Hui turned her head and faced Lu Chang'an sideways. "I heard that the school couldn't withstand the pressure, and my classmates reported it to the Education Bureau. There will still be a holiday for the Dragon Boat Festival. Should we go singing again?" Lu Chang'an suggested enthusiastically, because Bai Hui said that she would bring him with her when singing in the future. "Lu Chang'an, are you here to cut him off?" Jianning said unbearably, because Lu Chang'an had hurt Bai Hui's self-esteem, and Bai Hui had been angry and ignored Jianning and Lu Yuan. Lu Chang'an was very sorry and walked into the classroom. En Nuan arrived a little later than Lu Chang'an because her mother had to go out early this morning and asked her to take care of the flowers and plants at home. It took En Nuan a lot of time to water them. En Nuan saw Bai Hui from a distance. Today Bai Hui was wearing a full set of school uniforms and looked a bit short. Of course, this was compared to En Nuan. This baggy uniform could cover up Bai Hui's advantages, but as a volleyball player and school team athlete, En Nuan can wear sports shorts instead of the school uniform. En Nuan's mood was a little impetuous and moody, but when she saw Bai Hui, she couldn't help but feel a lot of pride. However, En Nuan didn't want to show it too obviously, reminding herself not to get carried away and to be reserved. Girls must be reserved. I really envy you. Someone prepares breakfast and lunch every day. En Nuan walked up to Bai Hui before she was ready to say anything, so she blurted out and decided to compliment Bai Hui. Jianning groaned and blushed a little. Even though he liked Bai Fen, and Nuan was really bright and charming, making it difficult for boys with strong hormone secretion to look directly at her. If you want, ask Lu Chang'an to bring you breakfast too. Bai Hui didn't know if what she said was good enough, but the sourness in her words made her regret it. It was too obvious. Wouldn't it make An Nuan happy? More proud? Seeing An Nuan's reserved smile and then leaving, Bai Huan angrily threw the breakfast in his hand into the trash can. Qian Ning opened his mouth, feeling angry, but it was not directed at Bai Huan, but at Lu Chang'an. She must know what happened in the KTV. Who told her? Bai Hui glanced at Qian Ning, a little angry. And Nuan suddenly seemed to be flattering in a low-key manner. This was definitely not admitting defeat, but the feeling of superiority as a winner. To express that she no longer bothers to argue with Bai Hui, only the winner has the qualification to take the initiative to lower her attitude. And Nuan walked into the classroom and sat in her seat, looking straight ahead. She took a deep breath, hung up her school bag, then put her hands on her legs, tapping her fingers lightly, and the corners of her eyes out of the corner of his eye. He noticed that Lu Chang'an was getting together with Gao Duiai, and he didn't notice her coming at all. Gao Duiai, you are so amazing. 200 years ago, you must have been the first in the imperial examination. You were so proud of the spring breeze that your horse was hoofed and you saw all the flowers in Chang'an in one day. Lu Chang'an took Gao Duiai's notes. Gao Duiai not only took tutoring lessons from his relatives and teachers, I have memorized the key points, and also sorted out some key and difficult test points myself. The entire notebook can be regarded as the condensed essence of Gao Duiai's 3 years of study. Gao Duiai smiled sheepishly, just you and An Nuan, please don't spread the word. Of course Lu Chang'an expressed his understanding, I made dried coriander yesterday. I'll bring you some when it's done. Gao Duiai nodded and went to read again. Why can I see all the flowers in Chang'an in one day? The imperial examination 200 years ago was in Chang'an? I'll take a look first. And Nuan couldn't help it, and reached out to take the notes from Lu Chang'an's hand. Who is Gao Duiai? The key to being a top student among top students is that they don't have the tendency of some people to be self-conscious or pretentious. Lu Chang'an actually used a little dried coriander to send people away. Lu Chang'an did not compete with An Nuan. He did not do reading comprehension today and continued to read Yuan Mei's Zi Baiu. An Nuan was absent-minded. After glancing at his notes, he squinted his eyes to see what Lu Chang'an was doing and saw what he was reading at a glance. Tong Yangui, from Gaoan County, Jiangxi Province, is 19 years old. He is slightly handsome and has a gentle nature. He will not reject anyone who wants to have sex with him. What kind of book is this? And Nuan felt ashamed and panicked. Although pornographic articles were a common topic among girls in private communication, what Lu Chang'an read was even more vulgar. Don't read it. And Nuan closed Lu Chang'an's book. In ancient times, this was a very common thing. Ducks are actually very interesting animals, Lu Chang'an explained to An Nuan with great interest. Shut up. After noticing Bai Hui walking into the classroom, An Nuan immediately suppressed the urge to run away. With a slightly shy smile on her face, she lowered her voice and squeezed Lu Chang'an's hand. Bai Hui watched from a distance, feeling that An Nuan and Lu Chang'an were flirting, and returned to his seat with a cold snort. Lu Chang'an was bored and doing nothing. He was not allowed to read books and had no notes. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 20. Seeing that Lu Chang'an had nothing to do, I thought that he would think of something to say, right? And Nuan sat upright and looked forward to it. The sound of reading was loud, and Lin Xinhua on the other side was flipping through the book. Miao Yingying, who was further away, looked back from time to time, wondering if she was looking at Lin Xinhua. I heard that Lin Xinhua had confessed, and the two were together. Someone was walking around in the classroom, and the noisy footsteps made people distracted. The leaves outside the window were whirling, and the emotions seemed to be stirring. He pricked up his ears and heard the classmates in front of him muttering about what happened that night. And Nuan felt that he was not involved. I feel a little regretful about something, but I still want to be there, and I must be at a loss. The weather in May couldn't be called hot, but I always felt that my palms were sweaty. And Nuan looked down at her legs that were together. The girl's thoughts seemed to be as mysterious as her body. As the college entrance examination was approaching, and Nuan also knew that she shouldn't have random thoughts. But that kind of shy expectation is the same as the desire that seems to be seduced by the bayberry in this season. I know clearly that it is so sour that it cannot be sweet, and if I bite it lightly, my teeth will become sore and my whole body will tremble, but I still want to wash it clean and pinch it. Looking at the touching red color in his hand, he took a bite without hesitation. The juice blooms, making the whole mouth feel the passion and sourness after the rainy season. It must be very satisfying, right? No, it doesn't mean that I have to find someone to fall in love with, and Nuan reservedly confirmed her mood, but Lu Chang'an had done these things, and he shouldn't explain something to her, say something, express something? Of course, there is also the matter of him cuddling with a certain woman on the street. As a friend, even if he pays attention in the name of gossip, it is natural, right? After class in the morning, and Nuan went to the toilet. There were several female classmates with her. Girls always like to do this kind of thing in groups. It's just that their smiles were a little ambiguous today. No matter when, things like gossip and scandals spread faster than disasters. It turns out to be in Nuan. It's in Nuan. It's really in Nuan. The seemingly inexplicable laughter and exclamation made in Nuan blush, and she hit someone with embarrassment. She was mentally prepared, knowing that she would definitely be teased by her classmates. Zhang Daol and An Nuan have a good relationship. Zhang Daol also played volleyball with An Nuan when they were in junior high school. However, Zhang Daol later gave up the sport because he was not tall enough. She took An Nuan's hand and made a heavy expression, "From today on, my wife will be handed over to someone else, who of you will be a cuckold for me? I'm going to die," and Nuan raised her hand and slapped Zhang Daol on the forehead. She was taller, so she slapped her like a ball. Nuan, what are you thinking? In fact, this is the focus of the gossip. Everyone thinks that Lu Chang'an is tantamount to an indirect confession. How the plot develops is naturally decided by An Nuan. I didn't think about anything. I think this matter was spread by rumors and spread suddenly, maybe it was also a misunderstanding. An Nuan said seriously, "Stop talking nonsense. Since Lu Chang'an fell down because of Baifen, these are all rumors that have been circulated for 3 years, and this matter may still be the same misunderstanding. What An Nuan said makes sense." Zhang Daol was about to nod when he suddenly realized and jumped up and said, "What are you talking about? There is video to prove it. Lu Chang'an is so affectionate that even I was moved. Could it be a misunderstanding? You might as well say you were filming a confession plot in a movie." Everyone's mood became heated again. If there is no misunderstanding, then you can continue to gossip. The enthusiasm of gossip can always fill people's hearts with excitement. And Nuan's cheeks were so red that she had nothing to say, because she had watched that video once, actually many times, so many times that An Nuan was embarrassed to admit how many times she had watched it. An Nuan and Lu Chang'an went to eat outside the school at noon, and Gao Dui asked them to help pack a meal. "Yesterday afternoon I went to the construction site to move bricks all afternoon and earned another 200 yuan. I'll treat you to dinner today." Lu Chang'an looked sideways at An Nuan. The girl's cheeks had a soft glow and seemed to be more pink than usual. Her long hair was tied up with a rainbow-like hair tie, and the tail of her hair jumped very lively. An Nuan nodded without hesitation, put his hands behind his back, kicked his legs and walked forward, coughing. "I went to move bricks yesterday afternoon. As for this morning, I heard someone said that you and your girlfriend we went shopping on a date, and we hugged each other. And Nuan glared at Lu Chang'an with an unhappy expression as she said that, as a friend, he secretly had a girlfriend without telling her, so of course his current unhappy attitude is natural, right? It won't make people think he is jealous, nor is he meddling in other people's business. And Nuan feels that he has a good sense of proportion. Thanks to her, I can continue to move bricks in the afternoon. She should have hired me to move bricks yesterday. Of course Lu Chang'an understood the reason. Fan Jianren was not bad, but he would not look for trouble. The pile of bricks yesterday only needed to be made from the construction site. It can be done in 2 round trips with a forklift. She hired you to move bricks, and Nuan couldn't help but be curious. Chen Changzhou sent the secretly taken photos to Nuan. And Nuan was indeed a little sour, but she felt that it was definitely not what it seemed at first glance. She's not the kind of girl who has no brains. It can also be said that when there is no confirmed relationship, girls are often more rational and logical. When you see such photos when you are in love, it is another matter. It's a pity that she just needs me to move bricks, and I'm not as handsome as Dumyu and Qin Guan. Lu Chang'an said regretfully, actually, Panan is not as handsome as everyone thinks, but Dumyu and Qin Guan are typical handsome and talented people. Yun, Dumyu is beautiful, good at singing and dancing, very charming, and can't control himself, so she also painted a portrait of Qin Guan, saying that he had a natural reclusive style, full of fairy style and chivalrous spirit, and could endure even when he was down and out. Obsessed, Qin Guan wrote a song Dream of Yangzhou. Don't change the subject, and Nuan didn't want to listen to Lu Chang'an's ramblings. She felt that he was deliberately changing the subject. Why did she ask you to move the bricks instead of someone else? I have her business card. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. It should be in his skull bag. I'll give it to you later. You can ask yourself. And Nuan doesn't do this kind of thing. In fact, this is not what she pays most attention to. The first thing she said is definitely not important. She looked at the photo taken by Chen Changzhou, and the woman was still wearing black stockings. This kind of woman is very mature and must be much older than Lu Chang'an. What relationship can Lu Chang'an have with her? I met someone I knew on the road. The electric car almost hit her. I just hugged her. Chen Changzhou gave it to you, right? Lu Chang'an then laughed. There's so much to care about. Who cares about you? And Nuan couldn't help but yelled, finding that there was a hint of coquettishness in her voice, and her cheeks were slightly warm. After arriving at the restaurant, after ordering and serving the food, Lu Chang'an asked for a takeout box to pack the food for Gao Duiai. And Nuan poked the rice in the bowl and saw that Lu Chang'an still didn't mean to explain to her, and she couldn't bear it anymore. She has a different view from others. Lu Chang'an is definitely not the kind of person who likes to be high profile. He may write poems and love letters, but it is almost impossible to express his love in public. And Nuan watched the video many times, and Lu Chang'an just explained the truth of the matter was that although his tone was very gentle and made Nuan's heart beat, he never explicitly said that he liked Nuan from the beginning to the end. He just said that Nuan was beautiful. Complimenting a girl on her beauty is a common thing for Lu Chang'an, right? Being a bystander is an opinion. And Nuan, who is deeply involved in it, is worried about gains and losses, but he is inevitably uneasy and wants to think more.